It's no exaggeration to state that the Lamy 2000 is one of the most iconic fountain pens of all time. But how did it earn this iconic status? What's the good, the bad, and the confounding of this interesting, amazing, contradictory fountain pen? Well, join me today as I go through what makes the Lamy 2000 the design icon we all know, love, and some of us loathe. But it's a very interesting pen. Let's take a look. At the request of Manfred Lamy, Gerd A Müller developed the Lamy 2000 in 1966. He loved the interplay between black and silver, and in this pen, these two tones dance in flashes of light and dark, all the while having a most marvelous conversation, revealing all sorts of clues, focuses, and functions of this amazing pen. Gerd Alfred Müller was born in 1932 in Frankfurt am Main in Germany. His most famous designs were home appliances for Braun and this intriguing fountain pen. The design language of the Lamy 2000 is very distinct. It is here we see the roots of its earned iconic status. We all know that Gerd A Müller was inspired by Bauhaus design, and in the same manner that Brutalism was Bauhaus, expressed in unadorned, blocky concrete, so too this fountain pen is Bauhaus, expressed in very ordinary and interesting materials, each presented in unique ways. I think also the way that Brutalism is a bit polarizing, so too is this pen. It's certainly a Marmite pen. You either respond to it or you do not. And it's only in the experience of writing with it where perhaps this fountain pen could win you over. It is a common misconception that Brutalism is related to the English word brutal, when in fact it's all about the materials. The fact that they are raw and unfinished concrete. And this pen uses ordinary materials, but this may be where the analogy starts to break down because there's nothing raw or unfinished about them in their expression. The Macrolon is magnificently tooled and still quite tactile. So let's speak first about Müller's first inspiration for the Lamy 2000. The interesting part is, much of it came from his own design catalog for various products. The choice of materials, for instance, was based on his Sextant SM31 electric razor from 1962 that he developed for Braun, which in turn had found some inspiration from the Leica M camera, which was designed in 1954 and is absolutely brilliant as a design icon and as a camera. So how else does the design of that razor relate to the Lamy 2000? Well, the materials used were meant to evoke a feeling of technological innovation into the design. In this way, it's communicating the idea that this is an advancement in the history of fountain pens. This is no small exaggeration when you see how these materials interact with each other, their incredible tolerances, and just the way the light plays off them. It really is quite a brilliant execution in form, design, and function. For instance, do you see how this pen tapers toward more of a bulge in the middle? This is designed to give it more of a center of gravity, giving it balance even when posted so that the tapering bit of the barrel absorbs some of the weight of the cap as it is on the back of the pen. This is brilliantly executed here. Of course, this is true for any pen of similar design, But this one, being as light as it is, only 25 grams, makes this effect even more striking, as that difference in adding the weight to the cap is much less, and so it adds less counterbalance, and so the back of your pen is not fighting with your nib. So you don't feel like you need to muscle your way in keeping the nib in contact with the paper. This makes writing smooth, pleasurable. It will take longer for your hand to get tired from writing. The Lamy 2000 gives the impression that the pen is perfectly balanced, either posted or unposted, which is a delightful illusion. The Lamy 2000 has a tripartite pen body, the central shaft, the end mechanism for the piston, and the front grip section. Three parts, a trinity. Now, two of these parts visually are united. The black macrolon, and then there's the steel cone that leads to the nib that is very distinct. Macrolon is a lightweight, tough, glass-like polycarbonate that's often used in lenses and medical devices. At the grip, the textured stainless steel gives tremendous depth and plays with the light in fine edges and micro shadows, dancing and twirling. It's a wonderful effect. And of course, this is not only aesthetic but functional as well, as that texture provides for a solid grip that is a pleasure to hold as you guide this pen across the page. It's a metal grip, but there is no slickness here, and that's remarkable. Another place where this fountain pen excels is that the finishing of all the materials are perfect, and perfect in the transition between them. This makes the seams seem organic, even from the sunburst of brushed stainless to the textured macrolon. This is impressive, and I imagine quite difficult to do. The tolerances are so tight as to make it seem as one integrated form, when in fact, these substances could not be more different. This sets up a logical duality, a suspended contradiction in your mind between the macrolon and the steel that your brain perceives and holds there in pleasant disbelief. But this also gives it a design harmony, where one forgets that there is a 14-karat gold nib integrated into that burst of brushed stainless steel. The nib could easily be considered the fourth part of the pen were it not so diminutive. With the black base, the black color of this pen, the main focus of contrast is all the various silver elements. And with the cap closed, the first we encounter is the rectangular clip in all of its blocky pop art construction, tapering to be more effective and more beautiful. When viewed from the top, it looks like the downstroke of an exclamation point. And as you uncap it, it points your eyes to the nib beneath as it uncouples from the cap, like the Starship Enterprise leaving space dock. This pen also has some aerodynamic, sleek elegance to it. The design of the clip language hints at safety and reliability, showing that this pen may be safely attached to another object without fear of loss or breakage. This was Müller's intent. It is a visual, nay, sculptural piece of reassurance. Now, if you look underneath the clip, I've often wondered what bit of business was going on under there. I've caught glimpses of it, but it turns out that it says Germany. And this is interesting. It's a bit of unusual humility for a design-forward country that likes to emblazon Made in Germany on, every Leica camera and many other pens. I believe that this is a way of tamping down the status symbol associations of many things, pens, etc. And if you note, there is no obvious branding on the Lamy 2000 either. I mean, even the Lamy Safari has bold Lamy branding, quite large in fact. But not on the Lamy 2000. The Lamy 2000 is what it is, independently and unapologetically. Only the 14-karat gold white nib seems to contradict some of these working-class origin, aspirations, and accessibility of the pen. And not to mention its approximate US $225 price tag, which is likely to rise after the filming of this video. So in many ways, this pen is a trust fund baby wrapped in a pretense of common no-nonsense design. Like a Harvard student wearing a Carhartt jacket and hanging around a Dunkin' Donuts. Not that this is to detract from this pen in any way. It is simply another contradiction that makes this fountain pen that much more interesting to me. If I were to do that, to detract from this pen, I would merely mention the horrible and obtrusive twin cap latches that are needed to hold the cap in place and are so easy to lose if you disassemble the pen. For me, these spoil the perfect taper and refinement of all the forms in this pen, and are better handled on other pens like the Waterman Edison and the Waterman Coran. In fact, when I read the book on Gerd A Müller, the designer who got forgotten, I was sure that there might be some answer there as to why the cap latches were handled this way. I was expecting the book to say something like this pen unabashedly exposes the elements of its function and doesn't try to disguise any of the rough edges, something interesting like that. But no, that was not the case. Tellingly, the book completely ignores any mention of them at all, even after going into meticulous detail on almost every other aspect of the pen. It was a profound disappointment for me. Now, I would find these less obtrusive had they been black. The nature of their contrast, like the other elements of the pen, demands that you see them in opposition to the black-grained macrolon. So the last bit of stainless steel coloring or silver in any way in this pen is the circular disc at the bottom of the barrel, which is very easy to miss. Is it just decoration? No, there's nothing on here that is just decoration. That's the point of Bauhaus design. This disc is here as opposed to a completely unadorned bottom of the barrel to show that there is a device hidden beneath, a means by which this pen may be filled. So it is the one hint that you can twist the back of the pen, because it is so seamless you would miss it otherwise. And remember, this pen was developed in an age when more people would be expecting a wholly integrated fountain pen. Since in 1966, fountain pens were still widely used and cartridge converters were just coming into practice. This idea of obscuring this mechanism was also inspired by that sextant razor, which also chose to hide its technology beneath a design veneer. So at the back, the pen is loosened, revealing a beautifully, perfectly integrated seam of very fine tolerances, and the fill mechanism is very effective. This is one of the high moments of the design of this pen for me, this little trick that the pen plays on you. It's amusing each time you fill it. You just can't imagine that it's there, you twist, and it opens, revealing itself. It's really interesting. Now you can fill this pen quickly and easily with 1.5 milliliters of ink, and that enormous ink capacity will last a very, very, very long time, perhaps too long, especially for those of us with short ink attention spans. But how is the writing experience? Well, let me tell you, it's sublime, but with a bit of a learning curve. This is a pen that prefers being level, and I find it's not as good for big, bold signatures, big, dramatic, loopy lines, but rather for tight, consistent, rhythmic writing. But still, when that smooth, flowing, lush nib touches paper, it is an indulgent experience. You have ink to spare, ink to spread in earnest across your page. It is a delight. It is smooth. It is fun to write with. It is so light in the hand, so perfectly balanced. I could go on and on and on, but I really cannot fault the writing experience. So yes, whether you see this as a design icon, which it truly is, or as a daily, I'd say workhorse pen, but can you call a pen over $200 a workhorse? It's not like you're going to toss it around. It's a valuable piece of technology. But nevertheless, it is made of humble materials, which is really, if you think about it, also a luxury pen. It has a gold nib, for instance. So I could make that case also. But see, once again, these are the interesting contradictions that lie within this pen. It is a workhorse. It is a design icon. It is a luxury pen. It is confounding. And that is what makes it so incredibly interesting to me, and probably why I've looked at this pen as a bit of a problem that I'm trying to solve since I've owned it. And I love that about pens, because if it gives me something to obsess about, I am happy. So there's no denying that this is a brilliant and utterly iconic fountain pen that is a pure joy to use. That is, if it weren't for those two twin wire cap keepers. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it, Mr. Müller? Sincerely. Well, thank you very much for watching today. Let me know your opinion of the Lamy 2000 in the comments. Give me a like, and if you've reached this point, consider subscribing. From the fountain pen, we go to some amazing places, and I'd love to have you along. If you want to support the channel even more, membership is available. We have a pen pal group, and there's a lot of other interesting things going on behind the scenes, so I'd love to have you there as well. So I make new videos all the time, and I have a live show as well, so I can promise you we will see each other again very soon, further up the road. So take care.